Christmas was on its way. Lovely, glorious, beautiful Christmas around which the entire kid year revolved.
Ho, 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 cassettes! And welcome to the Christmas Case Diaries! Just kidding, it's us. It's the Black Case
Yeah.
Diaries. we say the Christmas thing like during the Christmas season.
Right. It's a bit.
We're three old friends learning everything we can about movies and TV and hopefully teaching you in the process. I'm Robin.
I'm Marcy.
And I'm Adam.
Hello!
Hey!
We're back!
Welcome to the season 8 premiere
Oh my
of the Black Case Diaries.
Frick.
Later this month, we'll be celebrating our 4th year doing this.
Oh
So,
my God.
Look at that.
It's got to be over soon, right?
do you remember me and little baby podcasters, and we'd look at other shows that have been around for like 4 years,
Oh, yeah.
and be like, "Wow, I can't imagine that."
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right.
And now that's us.
Yeah.
Now that's us.
Yep. And then,
Our
and,
podcast is old.
It is.
and all of those other like startup podcasts that we were friends with right at the start.
They're all gone.
Gone.
Not all
Yeah.
of them, but a lot of them.
But
chunk of
so
them.
many.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the in podcast years, we're like 70.
I know. We're
Pretty much.
so old.
Yeah.
This episode marks the beginning of not only the Christmas season, but also season 8 of our show.
Oh, yeah.
I wrote in the dog, celebrate.
I like how it's...
Yeah. Do we do a dance party?
Here we go. Jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle all the way.
All the way.
I
We're
like how...
laughing all the way. Ha ha ha.
I like how the song Jingle Bell Rock already exists, but we did that instead.
because that's copyrighted.
Yeah.
This December, we're celebrating the 4-year anniversary of the BCD with episodes featuring some of our favorite Christmas stories, including, of course, A Christmas Story.
Hey.
Yay! Ever since the world met Ralphie Parker in November of 1983, Christmas has never been the same. For almost 40 years, families have been laughing along with the Parker family through their Christmas ups and downs. Although parts of the film haven't aged well, it seems to have achieved a status of a timeless Christmas classic. That's, I think, the funny thing about this movie is that everybody says it's simultaneously timeless,
Yeah. But also.
but
Very of the time.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's some things, which is, it takes place in the 30s.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot has changed since then.
Yes.
Anyway, so slip on your bunny pajamas and try not to shoot your eyes out. It's time for A Christmas Story. What do you guys? What are your initial thoughts on A Christmas Story?
I mean, it's one of those movies that everyone always brings up for the holiday
Yeah.
every single time. I see the iconic lamp everywhere,
Oh
Mhm,
yeah.
mhm.
Yep.
and
T-shirts.
the
the
wagon
Yes.
and the BB gun,
Yeah.
all of it. It's
Yeah.
just all the time
Mm-hmm.
around this time of year. It's not one of the movies that I personally watch every season,
Yeah.
Gotcha.
but it's always in the
I'm gonna.
atmosphere.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
say you don't have to watch this.
Yeah.
No.
It watches you. You know. You know what I'm saying?
It sees you when you're sleeping.
It's just there. You know, like you don't. I mean,
He
Yeah.
knows when you're not watching.
you could. It's a chance that maybe you haven't sat down. Right, someone listening, maybe you haven't sat down and watched this all the way through. But
Yeah.
you've seen scenes.
Absolutely.
You've seen
There's
no
no
clips.
way
You've seen pictures. You've seen. I mean, really,
You cannot escape it.
Yeah,
In
this
some
is-
way or other, you have seen something
Yeah.
from it.
it's an
You have
inescapable
seen
thing.
Fragile. You have seen
Yeah.
something.
You've seen something from this.
Yes.
Because this is something that is so ground into American culture, American pop culture. Like this is
Sprinkled everywhere, I can say.
Yeah.
what do you think, Marcy?
I always used to think this was a really old movie. Like, it tricked me. Like, I legit, I think, for a long time, thought that it was actually made in, like, the 30s or 40s
Damn.
or something.
Mhm.
I mean, at least when I was a kid. You
Yeah,
know, not when
yeah.
I got older. But,
Yeah.
like, just the look of it, it was like, man, this is an old movie.
Yeah. Well,
But yeah, eight in the 80s. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually funny because when we started researching this,
Yeah.
I was starting to write and I thought, what year did this come out?
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't.
You can't tell. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I knew it wasn't that. I wasn't.
But you also couldn't
but-
tell. Like, did they make it in the 90s?
Like, when did they make? I knew that it was old, but I was like, but I thought 83 was newer than I thought. I was like, whoa, yeah, it really is very timeless in that way. Like, it takes place in the late 30s, early 40s, made in 83, but for some reason, it like tricks our brains.
Yeah.
As a kid, I'll be honest, I watched this a lot.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, my family would watch it.
Yeah.
It wasn't one we watched every year, like we had a schedule,
Same.
but we just ended up watching it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was okay.
Yeah.
Honestly, when I was a kid, I was on Ralphie's side.
Yeah.
I was afraid of the dad.
Yeah.
I didn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I knew that it was funny because everyone was laughing at it.
Yeah.
But I was like,
What?
is this kid gonna get his gift or not?
Right.
Is his dad gonna kill him? Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
What about the dogs?
Yeah.
What is up with the dogs
What about-
eating the turkey?
I feel so bad when the dogs eat the
Yeah.
turkey, and like I feel bad for the mom, and like, you know, I remember just watching it as a kid and being like, oh yeah, that's hilarious, you know, like watching my older siblings and my family just laughing at it. And as I got older, I appreciate it so much more as an adult.
Yeah.
Right.
Rewatching it now, I think it's very sweet, very funny, and very
Yeah.
relatable.
I identified a bit with when he was writing to that
The
report, the
theme.
theme.
Yes.
And he's like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing. Like my
Oh my-
teacher is gonna like love
Yes.
this. She's gonna be on my side.
Yeah,
She's gonna,
yeah.
and
Yes.
I always,
Yeah.
because I'm not like I can write, but I'm not a writer by any means at all. I don't. This fantasy in my head that I was writing better than I actually was, or,
Totally.
like,
Yeah,
totally.
or that
absolutely.
it flowed better than
Yeah.
than it actually did on paper.
Dude.
Yeah.
You think something in your head and then you write it down and it's like,
Dude, have you ever gone back to read some of that old stuff from school?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
my
man.
God. I remember just being like, I'm in the zone right now. This
Yeah.
is,
And then
this feels so good right now.
Yeah.
I'm getting it all down.
All down.
All of my thoughts are here. Oh my God, it's so
Awful.
jumbled and terrible. I feel
Yeah.
bad for the teachers.
Yeah.
It is very relatable even now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly.
For those of you out there who haven't seen this movie, I'm surprised. But here's a summary for you. It's Christmas time, sometime in the late 1930s or early 40s, and the Parker family is getting ready for the big holiday in their hometown of Homan, Indiana. Little Ralphie Parker has only one gift he wants this year, a Red Ryder BB gun. Despite being told no at every turn, and that he will shoot his eye out, Ralphie never gives up hope that Santa will come through and make his Christmas wish come true. A Christmas Story is a hilarious look at the classic American Christmas, as told by the late humorist Gene Shepard.
If you have heard the name Gene Shepard, it's likely because of this film. To many movie watchers today, he's simply the charismatic voice leading us through the story. But Shepard had a long career as a humorist and radio personality, and the story that he so eloquently delivers on screen is, at least in part, his own.
Yeah, this is interesting because as a kid, I was very confused about who was narrating this movie. Like,
Yeah.
I knew it was adult Ralphie,
Yeah.
but there was something about it that was so like, I was like, I'm missing something. I'm missing,
Yeah.
who is
Right.
that? Like, who is that person?
Yeah. So in order to fully appreciate A Christmas Story, we need to learn a little bit more about the man behind it all. Gene Shepard was an elusive and enigmatic radio personality that eventually had success as an author and actor. Upon his death in 1999, the New York Times couldn't say for certain when he had been born, and for that matter, his age. According to his obituary, he was either born on July 21st or July 26th, sometime between 1921 and 1929.
What?
How?
What the heck?
There's no record?
Births
Like,
are
what?
public records, so
Yeah.
I don't know how the New York Times couldn't get a
How?
hold.
Did they not? Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, you know, a lot of websites will say, yep, this is his birthday, July 26th,
Huh.
19 whatever. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I guess it's his birthday. But then when I looked up an actual obit, that's
Yeah.
what it said. And I was
Huh.
like, that is fascinating.
That is,
That is crazy.
Did
So-
the hospital burn down with
I-
the records?
I don't know. I just don't know who to believe.
Yeah.
You know? So I was like, even the New York Times said that they didn't know.
Yeah. So if the New York Times doesn't know,
Yeah, then
who
we
are
don't
we to
either.
know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Nah, we know.
We
In
just
our
won't tell
hearts.
But
you.
we're going to keep it a secret. Yeah.
In our hearts, we know. No. Shepard started his career in radio shortly after serving in the United States Army Signal Corps during World War II. In 1956, he began broadcasting from the radio station WOR-AM in New York City. For 21 years, he delighted listeners with his skillful storytelling and meandering stream of consciousness monologues. He drew in crowds of hipsters and contrarians and built up a massive cult following who tuned in every weeknight to listen to Shep, as they called him, tell his hilarious anecdotes.
I found
Sounds fun.
I found essays about this guy.
Yeah.
People were very devoted to him, and they would sit and they'd listen for hours. And they said it was just like verbal jazz. They said it was just like he'd just go and go
Kept
and
going?
go.
I like that.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. He had
Yeah.
a gigantic following, and it makes complete sense because this movie became
So big.
like a huge cult phenomenon. In 1966, Shepard published his novel, In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash.
Great name.
Brilliant.
This is considered to be his most important work and was the basis of 2 feature films, A Christmas Story and A Summer Story, and several others later.
Yeah.
Neither one of these films was based on a single story, but was a combination of anecdotes from the novels and ones that Shepard told on air during his show. If you were to read the book, which you can find at your local library, you would recognize parts that were featured in the movie, including Ralphie's search for the Daisy Red Ryder BB gun. And the leg
Yes.
lamp is in the book, too.
Yeah.
The history of the Daisy Red Ryder begins with inventor Clarence Hamilton. He was originally a watchmaker that invented and began manufacturing a vaneless windmill during the 1880s. He also operated the Plymouth Air Rifle Company, which built wooden air rifles. In 1888, Hamilton designed an all-metal air gun and presented it to the board of the Plymouth Iron Windmill Company. General Manager Lewis C. Hugh test-fired the gun and said, "Boy, Clarence, that's a Daisy." And that's where the Daisy rifle got its name.
Wild.
Hilarious.
Wild.
Boy, Clarence. I can just hear it.
Yeah.
That's
Sounds-
a Daisy. You
that
hear,
sounds
you hear
great.
like jazz in the background, like
yeah.
on an old radio.
Yeah.
They're all smoking. Like you can't even see through the room.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my gosh.
You just see the muzzle of the gun poke through the smoke. Like a good cartoon.
According to company legend, the gun became a premium item available to farmers that bought windmills. But by 1895, the gun's popularity usurped the windmills, and the company began only producing air guns. They changed their name to the Daisy Manufacturing Company. In 1912, Markham Air Rifle Company, the seller of the first financially successful BB gun, was sold to Daisy executives and changed to King Manufacturing Company. Daisy acquired the company in 1928 and is still known today as a leading name in the air rifle production, especially for their legendary Red Ryder model.
That is such a strange,
Yeah.
sequence
Yeah.
of events there. How, of all things, do you go from, windmills
Right.
to
To-
Watches,
guns.
he went from watches to windmills to air guns. By the mid-1940s, Daisy was producing over 1 million Red Ryder BB guns. Before making A Christmas Story, Gene Shepard approached the Rogers Daisy Airgun Museum about a version of the 107 Buck Jones special gun that he wrote about in his book. After some back and forth with the curator, it became clear that the version of the gun that Shepard wrote about didn't actually exist. But the producers of the film insisted that Shepard's version be created for the screen. So the gun that Ralphie uses in the film was made specifically for A Christmas Story and does not exist anywhere else. After filming wrapped, they let young Peter Billingsley, who played Ralphie, keep the prop.
Wow.
Cute.
That's neat.
That
One
is
of a
really,
kind.
it is really,
Yeah.
really cool.
That is neat.
And I love stuff like that because you just cannot rely on memory.
Yeah. Nope.
Like, we
Right.
are all, in some sense, unreliable narrators.
Yes.
And so, him being like, well, no, I remember that gun.
Yeah.
No, I know that
He's like,
existed.
it had a compass on
No,
the
no,
hill.
yeah,
It had
And they were like, no,
a...
no, we're literally the company.
Yeah.
We
We have
You're not
all
listening.
The,
We have the books.
They're all here.
Yeah,
we have like literal like
we have minutes from every
examples
board
of
meeting.
the-
We never made that gun. So yeah, I think it's kind of a funny thing, and it's
Yeah.
partly what makes the movie so timeless too. It's just the melding of memory, the problems that we have when we can't quite remember things exactly
No.
the way they happen, and
Yeah.
kind of that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody experiences that, whether it's their own memories or even something like an old movie that they used to love, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I remember that movie so fondly. I watched it all the time, but I haven't seen it in years. I remember this and that and this. But then when you actually watch it, it's like,
Oh, maybe I'm mixing up two different movies.
Right.
Yeah.
Or like a movie line
yeah.
that
Yes.
you swear they said it one way.
Yeah.
And you watch it and you go, oh, I guess I was wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
That happens.
Yeah.
All right, now to our favoriteest part of every episode.
The bread and butter
The
of
bread,
the BCD.
The bread and butter, yes.
Yep.
Making of.
Making of.
Woo, making of.
In 1968, Bob Clark was on his way to pick up a date when he first heard Gene Shepard on the radio. Shepard was telling the story of a child getting their tongue stuck to a lamppost in the middle of winter. Oh,
Sound familiar?
dear.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
The story lasted 40 minutes, and Clark was so interested that he drove around, making his very upset date wait. He was determined to one day make a film based on Shepard's work. 15 years later, he was directing A Christmas Story.
Yay.
He did it.
Dreams do come true.
Yep. Yep.
The screenplay was co-written by Lee Brown and Bob Clark, based on not only Gene Shepard's book, but his various material from tours and radio shows as well.
Yeah, some stuff that wasn't even written down.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And also, Lee Brown was married to Gene Shepard at some point.
Uh-huh. While Gene Shepard was the one that added the line, "You'll shoot your eye out," Bob Clark was the one that had it repeated throughout the film. Shepard was on set for the first 2 or 3 weeks of shooting. While Clark was a big fan of the radio personality, he felt that Shepard was a bit too obsessive.
Yeah.
I saw some criticisms of Gene Shepard
Yeah.
while researching him.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was a little intense. I think that was the thing that people said the most
Yeah,
about him.
yeah.
He's intense.
Yeah.
Bob
person.
Clark didn't say anything bad about him.
Yeah.
He just was like, it was nice to have him for a little while, and then,
Hey, let's,
it's
okay,
he's a creative.
Yeah.
And so is
mhm.
Bob Clark, and they had ideas.
Yeah.
And that's
Right.
what
Yeah.
happens, man. And
Right,
Exactly.
whose movie is it, really?
No,
yeah.
yeah.
And it's his source material. So like
Yeah.
I understand,
Right.
Yeah. He wants it to be perfect.
Yeah.
I feel like they said he was kind of a perfectionist. and
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
just, it's really hard
It's
to have that on set.
It's hard to not be in charge when it's your stuff.
When you're and
Yeah.
when you're not,
yeah.
technically.
Yeah.
That's why I know we've talked about it before. Like, if any of us wrote something that got
Mhm.
turned into a movie, we'd be like, I'm hands on every
Yeah.
aspect. A Christmas Story was filmed in the early months of 1983 in Toronto and Cleveland, Ohio.
Hey.
Woo! I know.
Most of the exterior shots were done in Cleveland, including the iconic house on Cleveland Street.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yes.
Pretty cool.
Weirdly enough, there was no snow in Cleveland at the time, and they had to bring in snowmakers from ski resorts of all the times.
I have family
Yeah.
in Cleveland, and I cannot tell you how bonkers it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That there was no snow at that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Dude, they're like buried right now.
They are one of the
Yeah.
snowiest cities in the United States.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I don't-
Yet,
how did that
somehow-
happen?
Mhm.
Somehow.
The film features the famous Higbee's department store, and the scenes inside were filmed on location in the actual store.
Yay!
That's cool.
That's awesome. Higbee's left up their Christmas decorations for the shoot, and filming took place after hours. The kids slept all day so they could stay up all night shooting.
Yeah.
That sounds like a fun
Ooh,
time.
Yeah.
It does sound
I'm
like
sure
a
they
lot.
loved it.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yes.
They
I bet
had
it was
a ton of fun.
like a big slumber party.
Yeah.
Just like all the time.
It wouldn't be A Christmas Story without Gene Shepard's voice carrying the story along for the audience. He not only narrated the movie, but he also appeared in the Higbee's department store scene. He was the man that pointed Ralphie and Randy to the back of the line to see Santa.
Yeah.
Nice little cameo.
Yes,
That was
yes. Him and his wife, yeah.
Aw.
And they were standing there, and it's the part where they walk up. They're like, "Oh, we're gonna go see Santa," and he says, "What do you think you're doing?"
Ralphie was played by Peter Billingsley. He was chosen out of about 8,000 kids. And at first, Bob Clark thought he was too obvious for the part. Yeah. He had already been a host on the reality show Real People before landing the role. It's interesting because I think there was an offshoot. It was like Real Kids or Real, something like that. And that's where Peter Billingsley was on first. But that didn't do well. And so they just put him in on the Real People.
That's
yeah.
weird.
Billingsley was 13, playing the part of a 9-year-old boy. He returned to the role this year in an HBO continuation of the classic holiday movie.
Very nice.
Yeah.
We watched that.
Yeah.
The HBO.
Yes,
Yeah,
the
did you?
HBO. Yes, it's so cute.
Nice.
It is adorable.
Yeah.
I recommend it.
Yes, same
Yeah,
here.
I'll have to check it out. I'm so tired of the forever after sequels.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
where out of the blue, they're like, ooh, a sequel to this really old
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
And it's like, not.
Not
Yes.
well
Just
done.
doesn't have
I
any
really
of that
liked it
stuff.
because it focused on Ralphie again.
Good.
Yes.
It being about an
Yes.
adult
Yep.
Yeah.
who goes to the
yeah.
bar, who has
Yep.
adult problems, who has money
Yes.
problems, who
Yeah.
is. I mean, it was basically the same story,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
this time told through the parents' perspective
Yes.
instead of the
They-
kids' perspective.
And he still had like his personality, like
He was
little
the
bits
same
of his
person,
personality.
Right.
You know, like
That's good.
he did his little funny laugh and like all
Yeah,
these
it
little
was
things.
cute.
Well, and it was just quick little things. They
Nice.
didn't dwell on it. It
Yeah.
was nice.
I really liked it. I thought it was good.
He was the only kid on the set that was allowed to hold the coveted Red Ryder BB gun. The gun was never loaded, and he handed it back to an adult the moment the camera stopped rolling.
Yeah, they really care about
Ah.
safety.
Yeah. Yep, they never let him point it at anybody.
Mhm.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a BB gun.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you could shoot someone's eye out.
Yeah.
It really could hurt
exactly.
No
somebody.
joke.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bob Clark said that all the kids in the film were intelligent and got along pretty well, despite the bullying on screen. Ian Petrella played Randy, Ralphie's younger brother. In the scene where the boys visit Santa in the department store, they had to ride a big slide. Petrella was terrified of the slide, and the tears he cries in the movie are actually real.
Oh, no.
Poor kid. Bob Clark didn't make him do a test run because he was already too nervous to do it once. Oh,
Yeah.
that's sweet.
Ugh.
Yeah, if you guys are unfamiliar in the scene in Higbee's, Santa is basically on top of this mountain.
Yeah.
And then they have this slide that the kids ride down to
Yeah.
land in like this puff of like cotton and to be
Right.
snow.
Yeah.
It's very, I mean, as a kid watching it, I was like, I wish this is what it was like.
Yeah, that looks like fun.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of fun, but yeah, I guess some of the kids were terrified of it.
I mean,
Aw.
to them, it might have just seemed too high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
I could
it's
see
not
that.
like a little plastic slide. It's like
No.
it's a
Yeah,
full
A
thing.
giant.
So
Yeah. Scott Schwartz played Flick, Ralphie's friend on the playground. In one of the most infamous scenes of the movie, Flick gets his tongue stuck to the pole on a particularly cold day. Ah, yes.
I've always been like, for some reason, I've always thought that was a risk at all times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
This
just
was
growing
like
up.
a PSA. You
Yeah.
know? Like,
Just growing up, I was kind of scared of it. Just the
Yeah.
idea of it. Not
Yeah.
that I was gonna go around licking poles. So it's like it's not gonna happen to me.
Oh, we should
Yeah.
have triple dog dared.
But
him.
I was just aware, I was just aware that it could happen. I was just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
oh god, that's like,
This,
don't do
I
that.
think, to me has always been funny. Like,
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
when I was a kid, this was so funny. Like, the fact that the kids all go in from recess
mhm.
and he's
Yep.
just stuck out there,
Yeah.
but they just let him.
They just leave him.
Just leave him.
They're like, well, the bell rang. Like,
You know?
what are we gonna
And
do?
the teacher's
Like,
just like, "What's going on? This child was here before recess.
yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I know it.
Where is he now?" I mean, I just, oh my gosh. And like the part where she's like, "Now you know who you are."
Now, I know that some of you put Flick up to this. But he has refused to say who. But those who did it know their blame. And I'm sure that the guilt you feel is far worse than any punishment you might receive.
And Ralphie was like, nah, we all know it's better not to get caught.
Yep.
Yeah, are you kidding me?
You can't trick us.
Yeah.
It's not like they felt that guilty anyway.
No, really. The kids were actually filming in the cold, as evidenced by their pink cheeks and noses. Actor Schwartz, we're happy to say, didn't actually get his tongue stuck to anything. There was a tiny hole in the pole that used suction to make his tongue stick. It looked so fun, the other kids wanted to try it.
Oh my gosh. Jeez. That's good though.
We're all
'cause-
horrified at home. Like, we're all terrified of this happening, and the kids are like,
and then
ooh, let me try.
Yeah,
Looks fun.
But that's good because like even if it was only stuck for a moment, it would leave like freezer burn on your tongue essentially,
Right.
and that's
Yeah.
no good.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah. Scott Schwartz was apparently a pain in the neck on set, so the crew would mess with him by breaking for lunch and forgetting to remove him from the pole.
Lol.
Aw. R.D. Robb played Schwartz, another friend of Ralphie's and the boy that dares Flick to lick the pole. Robb is now a producer, and he has reprised his role as Schwartz in that recent HBO sequel with Scott Schwartz and Peter Billingsley.
Yeah.
Aw.
All the original kids came back.
That's
so
awesome.
Cute. Zach Ward played the horrendous Scut Farkas, Ralphie's bully.
Dude, I don't think there's been a better name for a bully.
Yeah, yeah.
Scut.
I know, right?
It's such a good
With the yellow eyes.
The yellow eyes.
Yellow
I swear
eyes.
to God, he had yellow eyes.
Ward still acts today and also returned to the role of Scut in A Christmas Story Christmas.
Yeah.
Yay.
Dude, were you guys ever afraid of somebody as much as Ralphie is afraid of this bully?
Of this bully? I don't think so.
I don't know.
Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, like, our bullying
Yeah.
was all mostly
Yeah.
psychological.
Yeah. I was more afraid of just social situations.
Yeah.
In general.
It left the kind of scars that stick.
Bob Clark wanted Melinda Dillon in the role of Ralphie's mother after seeing her in Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Very nice. She was perfect as the loving wife and mother in the 1930s Midwest, a devoted woman that never put herself first. When Ralphie beats up his bully at school, Mrs. Parker protects Ralphie because she understands why he lashed out. She has a stronger relationship with Ralphie because of it.
Yeah, so this is a really interesting scene in the movie where Ralphie finally has enough, and his mom takes him home, fixes him up, and, like, the whole time he's terrified.
Yeah.
You
Yep,
know,
he's
he's
like,
so
"Oh my
scared
gosh,
of what's going to happen. And then when they have dinner and she tells the dad, oh, Ralphie got into a fight today, and she downplays it so much.
She's like, essentially boys will be boys.
You know.
Right, yeah.
You know
They're
how
fine.
it is.
Yeah.
And, like, the dad, and they said this in the audio commentary, the dad knows she's full of shit. See, when I was a kid, I always interpreted it as, like, she fooled him.
Ah.
But,
Right.
like, the dad knows that she's full of shit.
Yeah.
But he's like, well, if she's not worried about it, I guess
Then
I'm not
it's
either.
probably
I'll let
fine,
it go.
Yeah. And that's like, you know, it goes on from
Nice.
there.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's such a sweet little scene, you know,
Yeah.
where she's like, you've been through enough.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like, really, you shouldn't beat people
Yeah,
up. But,
like,
you know, it's, you know, we're going to just move on.
You
Yeah.
know it was wrong. You know you should get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna.
I mean, it's a good thing she was there to pull him off of
That's
him.
true.
Because he was not stopping.
No,
Yeah.
he was not. He
Yeah.
could have like given.
He could have
Scott
really
some brain damage.
Yeah, he
or
really could have
something.
hurt him. Yeah.
Darren McGavin was not Bob Clark's first choice to play the old man. He actually wanted Jack Nicholson in the part, but the production company didn't want to pay for him.
Dude, can you
Oh.
imagine?
Yeah, it would be a different movie.
Yeah, it would.
Bob Clark was grateful in the end because he couldn't imagine a better person for the part.
No, really.
We agree. We agree.
This guy is the old man.
Right.
Yeah.
It just works perfectly.
Yeah. He's this really interesting balance of like joy, like he wants to be happy,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
he's trying to make everything perfect,
Right.
and
Yep.
just complete utter frustration
Oh,
at his
yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
And like, he's just this kind of just teetering.
It's the
between-
most real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just,
Yep. Fighting with the furnace, a
Yes.
typical house problem.
Yep.
And, just, yeah.
One of the most challenging parts of production was convincing the audience that the film took place in the 1940s while being filmed in 1983. Obviously, they succeeded. They fooled Marcy.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
The actual year that the film was set has been disputed. In one scene, there's a calendar that suggests that it's 1939. In another scene, Ralphie has a little orphan Annie decoder ring with the year 1940 on it.
Yeah.
It's this kind of ambiguity that makes the film feel timeless, and like it's being told as a memory. As we get older, we mix up stories and events blur together, just like they do in this film.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
The likelihood of all of these things happening one Christmas
Yeah.
is low, right?
Yeah,
Right. Right.
absolutely.
When you think about it, and it's
Yeah.
it's just kind of like you think about all the Christmases when you were a kid, and each one having a major event
Yeah.
that was, some major funny
Big
event.
enough that.
And
yeah.
then when you're an adult, telling them sequentially like it's all one Christmas. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. It makes sense with Gene Shepard's stories, too.
Yeah.
All those
Yeah.
different stories. Yeah. There's
And-
no way they all happened.
And people have pointed out that just because the ring has 1940 on it does
Yeah.
not mean that it was 1940. People were saying like, well, those would get printed.
Early and
Yes,
sent
early
out.
and
Yeah.
sent out. And so if it was December 1939,
Yeah.
he
they
would
would've
already
had-
have the ring for next year.
Mhm.
Yeah. Because he would be decoding all next year.
Yeah. Little Orphan Annie was a radio drama based on the comic strip of the same name. In one scene, Ralphie receives a decoder pin in the mail and uses it. Sorry, we said ring, but it's a pin.
Oh, yeah.
Ralphie receives a decoder pin in the mail and uses it to decode a secret message from the show. The prop department was able to track down an actual decoder pin. Production searched for months to find an authentic radio for the scene.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, they thought it was going to be so easy to find a radio.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And it
I mean,
took a while.
You imagine like one that at least works in some way, like lights up at least.
Lights up,
or,
yeah.
we had found one in my grandmother's house
Yeah.
from that time,
Mhm.
from the 40s at least,
Wow.
and my brother got it to light up. But
Oh,
there's
that's
nothing
cool.
else that we could
Doesn't
possibly
tune in.
Do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
When Ralphie and his family visit the mall, they see actors dressed as characters from The Wizard of Oz. This points to the movie taking place in 1939, since that movie would have come out a few months earlier, and it would make sense for the mall to promote it, because they really pushed
Oh,
The Wizard
yeah.
of Oz in this movie.
Yeah.
Using the characters was no problem because they were owned by MGM, the studio behind A Christmas Story.
Easy.
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes. Actually, earlier they watched like a Christmas parade,
Yeah.
and there's a scene where Mickey Mouse
Mm-hmm.
and Minnie are walking, and the Wizard of Oz characters come and like the witch like scares them away, and they didn't ask Disney for permission
Oh.
to use the
dear.
characters, but they sent the clip to Disney,
Yeah.
and they were like, "Nah, that's fine."
Oh. Hey.
And I'm like, that
Lucky.
is 1983 Disney for
That-
you.
yeah, I was gonna
it
say.
is.
Because
Yeah,
there's
it is.
no way now
that
that Disney
they
would
just
do it.
allow
They
it.
would
Yeah.
not even for
No.
a second
Right.
of film.
No.
They'd be like, cut that or
Yeah.
give us
royalties.
$1 million.
Yes.
$10 billion.
Yeah.
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 There are so many classic moments in this movie, it would be impossible to choose one that defined the whole thing. Every fan seems to have their own favorite part that speaks to them somehow. It could be something as subtle and hilarious as Ralphie's brother Randy not being able to put his own arms down after his mother bundled him up too tightly in his snowsuit, to the moment that Ralphie discovers the horror of cussing in front of his father. So we're going to talk about some of these moments in the movie.
I think I would have to say that one of my favorites
Yeah.
has got to be the arms in the coat because
Yeah. I can't put my arms down.
yeah,
And she like
because-
tries. And then
Yeah.
they go right. They boing, right back
Mhm.
up.
Because I remember feeling that way. It wasn't as bad as that,
Yeah.
but it felt that bad because
Yeah.
the coats were so puffy. And I remember putting ski pants on for the first time.
Oh my gosh.
When I was young,
man.
the first time I ever went skiing, you put on these big pants over the pants you had on,
Yeah.
and then like pants for the snow to keep you dry, right? I felt like I was the Michelin Man, not sponsored, but it was like
Yeah.
it felt so poofy. So I really
Yeah.
relate to that moment, and I think that's very
I
funny. That's
mean,
one of my-
even recently, it was so cold that I bundled up so much, and
Yeah.
I sent a picture to
Yeah.
to Robin of just me
sometimes
bundled
it
up.
feels that way. Yeah,
I was like, "Hey, I'm Randy."
I love the part where he falls on the ground
Oh
and
yeah,
he actually can't
he
get
just
up
can't get up.
because
He's just
he
rolling
can't-
around.
he can't use his arms
Yeah.
to get up off the ground. Oh,
Oh
my
my God.
Oh, and then when Scut Farkas is going after them, and he falls, and he just plays dead.
Yeah, he
and
just lays there.
Ralphie's like, Randy's playing dead. It's the only card he has right now. The only
Yeah.
thing that can keep him safe.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
Oh my god. The leg lamp is possibly the most famous physical gag of the film.
Oh yeah.
Even if you haven't seen A Christmas Story, you have likely seen its most famous prop, a lamp shaped like a woman's leg. It comes as a prize won by Ralphie's old man in a box famously marked Fragile, must be Italian.
Yep.
Must be.
Gene Shepard's idea for the lamp came from a knee-high beverage ad. So there was a drink.
Yeah.
It was called knee-high because the bottles were so tall, they supposedly went up to your knee
Oh.
if you put them on the ground.
Wow. Clever.
Here you go.
Knee-high.
Yes. He described the lamp in his novel under the story titled My Old Man and the lascivious special award that heralded the birth of pop art. The first version of the infamous leg lamp appeared in a PBS film called Phantom of the Open Hearth. That film was also based on Gene Shepard's stories and followed Ralphie as a teenager.
Whoa.
Ah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Production designer Reuben Freed developed a version of the lamp that appears in A Christmas Story. He had 3 lamps made, none of which survived production.
Oh man.
All 3 of
snap.
them were broken in that scene where she drops the lamp on purpose. The mom breaks the lamp.
Oh.
Well, quote unquote on
On
purpose.
Right.
We never
Yeah.
truly know, but we know she did it on
Yeah,
purpose.
she's like, I don't know what happened.
No,
I
I-
was just watering
I
the
was-
plants.
No idea. I'm
My
so sorry. Yeah. Bob Clark kept the lamp hidden until it was time to film the scene, so the reactions from the actors would be more genuine.
Wow, that's great. That's awesome because it definitely triggers something.
Yeah.
Seeing that
Yeah.
lamp.
It's a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, we're gonna have this in our room. Okay.
And he wants to put it in the window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's 1939,
Yeah.
guys.
Mhm.
And then, like, everybody's staring in, and Ralphie's just, like, running his hand up the leg. Like, oh my gosh. Oh
He's just a child.
my god.
The snap of a few sparks, a quick whiff of ozone, and the lamp blazed forth in unparalleled glory.
In a scene where Ralphie helps his dad with the car, the young boy accidentally blurts out the F word. The scene does not include the actual word, so Ralphie says fudge instead.
My favorite substitutes.
Yes.
Bob Clark had Peter Billingsley say both words, so they could show his mouth saying the curse word and the audio saying fudge.
Yeah.
Immediately after, Mrs. Parker puts a bar of Lifebuoy soap in his mouth.
Ugh.
The bar was actually made of wax.
Not better.
Because here, I'm going to tell you guys something. I have bit a bar of soap before. When I was 5,
Mm-hmm.
I thought, you know what? I
Smells
had
so nice.
I didn't
Yeah.
understand the idea of intrusive thoughts, and
Yes.
I was
Yes.
taking my bath, and
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
softish,
Yeah.
and I
You're
thought,
like,
this, I just want to bite right into this, and
Yeah.
did
this
not.
looks satisfying to
Yeah,
bite.
Yeah.
did not police that thought at all. I just and my teeth were stuck in it because of the
Yeah.
yeah.
Ugh. Okay.
If
Now
you
you
don't
know.
know, soap is
It is so bitter.
there's
As
there's
apparently
nothing more bitter than
a
soap.
lot of people
Yeah.
with the Lifebuoy soap remember.
Yeah, they remember
apparently.
what soap tasted like.
Mm-hmm.
This scene was apparently very relatable to many of the adults in the audience who remembered soap as a common punishment for bad language. The over-the-top reactions from Mrs. Parker and Mrs. Schwartz are played for laughs. However, many people find the part where Mrs. Parker hears Mrs. Schwartz hit her son to be outdated and difficult to watch. So this is
yeah.
obviously an exaggeration where she says, the dad says, Ralphie said the F word. And she's just like screams like, oh my God, Ralphie, why? You know, like,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
as if it's the most ridiculous, like, you know,
Yeah.
the worst thing he could have possibly done.
Yeah.
The scene filmed in Higbee's department store captures the chaos of holiday shopping. Sure does.
Oh yeah.
The line to see Santa is weeks long. The place is completely packed, and Ralphie and Randy venture into the crowd alone to meet Santa. That was the 40s, all right.
Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine just letting your a completely packed mall,
Seriously.
Yeah.
like, and you're
Could
just
not
letting your kids go,
imagine.
Yep.
just letting them. Nope.
Nothing could possibly happen.
Yeah. No, you're fine.
As Ralphie waits in line, an odd little boy keeps trying to talk to him about the Wizard of Oz. The reactions from Peter Billingsley in this scene were completely real. It was a bit that Bob Clark decided to do on the spot, and he put the boy in scene without telling Peter what to do. Peter's discomfort really comes across on screen.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, he
It's
is like
perfect.
super weirded out by that kid.
Yeah.
And in the commentary, he was like, "You really were kind of freaked out." He said, "I was." The annoyed elves in the scene were played by local actors. Jeff Gillen played the jaded and somewhat terrifying Santa Claus. He was an old friend of Bob Clark's.
Oh,
Nice.
cute.
Dude, this Santa Claus, the ho, ho, ho. And he like taps his forehead to make him go down the slide.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Classic.
Get out of here.
You'll shoot your eye out, kid. Merry Christmas. Ho, ho, ho.
When Ralphie wakes up on Christmas morning, there's a magical snowfall just outside his window. The crew knew it would drop below freezing in Cleveland overnight, so all they had to do to get the picturesque scenery was to spray the trees with water the night before.
Yeah, it's just water.
That's clever.
Yeah.
The Christmas hilarity continues when Ralphie's mother forces him to put on a pink bunny suit that a relative sent him. As a 13-year-old boy, Peter Billingsley found the outfit very embarrassing to wear in front of the crew. He does still own the suit, however. That's great.
Yeah, he said it was uncomfortable too, I think, which makes it worse.
Oh,
It's
no.
just like,
Gross. It's like probably itchy and-
Yeah. Ralphie finally gets his Christmas wish for a Red Ryder BB gun when his father surprises him with one last gift. It's an incredibly touching moment that captures the magic of Christmas morning. Although Ralphie's father is nowhere near a perfect parent, he comes through in the end.
Yeah, I mean, the movie does not pretend that this family is perfect.
no.
Right.
The idea is that they're dysfunctional.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
and the dad, it's really is sweet, you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, the mom probably didn't know about the other gift. Like, this is something he did.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
it's like, it's so nice.
Yeah, it's like he was listening to
Yeah.
him the whole time, you know?
Yeah.
The Parkers' Christmas dinner goes awry when the neighbors' dogs break in and destroy the food.
This is so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Like, when the dogs
Yeah.
come in and destroy the
Oh,
food.
yeah. They
Yeah,
spent
oh my
money
gosh.
on,
Yes.
you know, the heating the oven for the whole day or so to
Yeah.
cook it. And,
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh, my
you
gosh.
know,
Yeah.
like,
The family heads to a Chinese restaurant called Bo Ling Chop Suey Palace. The sign on the front actually says bowling with a burnt out W. When assistant director Ken Goach was a child, his mother mistakenly took the family to a bowling alley for dinner because the W was missing from the sign. She thought it was the name of a Chinese restaurant. The scene was filmed on location in Toronto, and the building still exists.
It's one of those rare moments
yeah.
where the exterior and the interior are the same building.
Very nice.
Yeah.
It is now a French restaurant.
Yes.
Ooh.
It likely was never a Chinese restaurant.
Probably not.
Right. Mrs. Parker, Melinda Dillon, was actually given the wrong script for the scene on purpose. She knew that the waiter would bring out roast duck, but she did not know that the duck would still have its head attached. Her squeal and
no.
subsequent laughter was unscripted and a genuine reaction.
Snap. Ooh,
That's
yikes.
hilarious.
Yeah.
I watched this and it's like, first of all, that duck looks so good.
Yeah.
It looks delicious.
Mhm.
I would love
Oh,
to
yeah.
eat roast duck.
Mhm.
But yeah, with the head on it, it's just not
Yeah.
something you expect, I guess.
No.
And the way he just chops it, he chops the head off and he just puts it in his pocket.
Oh.
That's ridiculous.
Uh,
Everyone at the restaurant is so kind and accommodating to the Parkers, with the manager even asking the staff to sing carols. Even though the family is apprehensive at first, they seem to enjoy their meal wholeheartedly. The scene includes insensitive racial stereotypes and tropes, and is often the moment of the film that people point to as an example of it not aging very well.
mhm.
This scene, what's going on is that they're kind of making fun of them.
Yeah.
Like, these people are being so nice.
Yeah.
They brought you out this delicious duck. And
Yeah.
they're singing carols
They're
for you.
They're open on Christmas.
Exactly, that's
Yeah.
what I was going to say,
Yeah, and like they're being so nice, and it's like, you know, it's being played for laughs,
Yeah.
and it's like
Mhm.
that kind of sucks.
Yeah.
You know, so I totally get
That's
that.
a valid one.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
The 2017 A Christmas Story Live changed the scene by including a professional a cappella group called Philharmonic to sing the carols to the Parkers. After their beautiful performance, Ralphie's father says, "I wasn't expecting that." The manager, played by Ken Jeong, asks, "What were you expecting?"
The 2017 live A Christmas Story was not popular,
Uh,
but
no.
this scene people did really like. Actually,
Yeah.
they liked they changed it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they thought it was really funny.
Oh.
That he's like, "Well, what were you expecting?"
Yeah.
You know.
Mhm. The film ends with Mr. and Mrs. Parker sitting quietly by the tree, watching the snow fall while the young boys are asleep, clutching their favorite new toys. The peaceful ending completely captures the bittersweet feeling at the end of Christmas.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
ending makes me cry when I watch it because it's so like,
Oh.
Mhm.
we did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Like she puts the boys to bed, she comes downstairs and she sits there and they're just looking out the window together. It's just
Yeah.
like,
Right.
Made it through another Christmas.
yes, because the movie is about Ralphie.
Yeah.
So we don't actually see how hard Christmas is on the adults. Like, we
Mhm.
see
Oh,
them
yeah.
struggle with stuff.
Yeah.
We see them, you know, when the
Yep.
car breaks down and the
Yep.
dogs eat the
Yep.
food and
and
all
the
of-
dad's trying to get a good deal on a Christmas tree.
Yeah, yeah, like you see all that stuff, but like you don't really you're watching it all through Ralphie's
Yeah.
perspective and you don't
Mhm,
really see
mhm.
how it is on them. You know that they also had a hard time.
Yeah.
Right.
They,
You
they
know-
also went through some
Right,
stuff.
but it was so good at the end. Like
Yeah.
everything
Mhm,
turned out
mhm.
okay and
Yep.
everything was so nice and it's that nice peaceful warm feeling of just
Yep.
like we did it.
Yep. One of the reasons why you still, at the end of all of the chaos, are like, you know what? You still enjoy Christmas.
Right. It is still good.
Yeah.
All right. So now that we've done the making of, now it's
Yay.
time for reception.
Yay.
Woo! So this film had an estimated budget of $3.3 million, and it grossed $20.7 million.
That's pretty good.
not terrible.
For a
Yeah.
low budget movie.
Yeah.
Real cheap.
Its popularity, having grown over the years, has led to its cult status and various sequels and iterations.
Yeah.
So the first one that came about as a sequel was Ollie Hopnoodle's Haven of Bliss from 1988. This was a made-for-TV sequel that's about the family's summer vacation, where Ralphie gets a job and they have a family dog that goes missing. It was written by and features the voice of Gene Shepherd, but had Dick Bartlett as director.
Wow.
Yeah, and it didn't really have any of the same people really,
Yeah.
at all.
This is so
It is.
interesting. It's
Yeah.
like you just think A Christmas Story is it, but oh my
Yeah.
god, there's so much.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
like a crazy
Yeah.
anthology
Yeah.
thing.
I mean, yeah, it goes along with Gene Shepherd's whole thing, really.
Yeah.
You know. The next one that came about was My Summer Story, which also may be known as It Runs in the Family, from 1994. This sequel brought back Bob Clark and Gene Shepherd to work together. Kieran and Christian Culkin play Ralphie and Randy in this combination of Shepherd stories.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah. The next one comes in 2012, A Christmas Story 2. A Christmas Story 2 was a direct-to-DVD sequel that brings Ralphie back as a teenager that wants a 1938 Hupmobile Skyline convertible.
I don't know if Santa can make that one happen.
Yeah, that might be a toughie. And then the final one is the 2022 just released A Christmas Story Christmas. It's a sweet nod to the original as well as Gene Shepherd's stories and books. It is also the only sequel to bring back more than one person from the first movie.
And it's beautiful. It is
Yeah.
so sweet.
Next, we have the live version.
Oh, here we go.
Oh boy, guys. After the success of a live television production of Grease, Fox decided to give Christmas Story a try. So,
I don't.
yeah.
Sorry, I don't think Grease doing well. Like, why do you jump to A Christmas Story? Why is that
That's
your
a
That is
second?
great question,
That's a
Adam.
really good question
Yeah.
because Grease was already like A Christmas Story was also a Broadway musical.
Yes.
I understand, but this Grease was such an established musical,
Yes.
That's what I'm
and
saying.
it's known as a musical. Whereas
Yes.
Christmas
and its
Story,
original
Yeah.
movie was a musical.
Yeah.
and A Christmas Story is not known as that.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it does feel like a weird jump.
Yes.
Like just pick another one that's a musical.
Right?
Seriously.
There were a lot you could have done first.
Yeah.
Maybe work your way up to A Christmas Story.
Right.
Maybe.
Yeah. 'Cause
Maybe.
the Broadway musical exists, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So in 2017, there was a live television event that combined elements of the Broadway show with the movie. The music was done by the same duo that did Dear Evan Hansen and La La Land.
I don't think they're the reason this tanked.
No. Honestly, one of the
Uh-oh.
biggest reasons was that it was 3 hours long.
Yeah.
This version also featured Matthew Broderick as the narrator/adult Ralphie. In 1976, Broderick's father, James, also played Ralphie in a PBS film based on Gene Shepherd's stories.
Yeah.
That's cute.
So that
Wow.
that
So it
PBS
brought it
one I
back.
mentioned.
You're probably familiar with this movie if you've ever tuned into TBS on Christmas.
Yeah, A Christmas Story?
Yeah. In 1985, Ted Turner purchased MGM and then promptly resold it in 1986. When selling it, however, he kept the rights to more than 2,000 films, including, you guessed it, A Christmas Story. So in 1991, Turner began playing the film on his various channels, and by 1997, it had increased ratings and became popular enough that Turner decided to begin showing it for a full 24-hour marathon. This year marks the 25th year of this marathon.
So guys, it's almost the end of our
Almost
of our
nearly
Christmas
there.
tale. Fun facts. Here's some fun facts about a
Oh, yeah.
Christmas Story.
Fun
Woo!
facts.
Bob Clark once went to a Chinese restaurant in New Hampshire and thought he heard lines from the movie. He looked over the booth and saw a family of 4 acting out the movie with all the lines. He was told by the waitress that the family came in every year as a tradition and acted out the whole movie. This happened again in Santa Monica.
Wow.
Dang.
That is crazy.
I
Yeah.
feel really bad for that waitress. I'll be honest.
having
yeah.
to hear the
Every
movie
time.
every year.
She was just
yeah.
like, cool. We're not singing to you
Yeah,
guys.
I was gonna ask. I was like, I wonder
Yeah.
if they
Yeah.
made
You can
him
pretend
sing.
that we are, but
yeah,
Yeah.
we're not going to.
wow, that's crazy.
One of the girls in the scene where Ralphie is beating up the bully grew up and had a baby that ended up being in one of Bob Clark's Baby Genius movies.
Oh, wow.
Zach Ward, who plays Scut Farkas, was a big fan of Peter Pan as a kid. Since he had red hair and looked like him, he named a puppy that he got Tinkerbell, because that's Peter Pan's sidekick.
Yeah.
Aw.
I just thought that
How
was so cute.
Yeah. Scott Fergus had a heart after all.
Uh,
Director Bob Clark plays a cameo. He is Swede, the neighbor on the street with the colorful beanie, right next to Old Man Parker as they gaze at the lamp in the window.
nice.
So do you remember when they get the lamp? He puts it in the window, and then all the neighbors kind of gather outside,
Come
like,
out.
what is that in
Yeah.
your window?
Yeah. And he's like, it's an award.
A Christmas Story was one of the inspirations for the Wonder Years.
Yeah,
Hey,
not
that makes
cute.
sense.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense.
Fits
Yeah,
in
it
the same
does.
kind of
Yes.
vibe.
I thought the same thing watching it. I was like, this is very Wonder Years-esque. Yeah.
Yep.
So, any last thoughts before I wrap this up?
Like a Christmas present.
Hey,
Ah,
put it on a bow and
ooh.
everything.
First one of the season. Oh,
Yes.
Put it right under the BCD tree.
Oh, yes.
We all know that this is a classic Christmas movie,
Mm-hmm.
and there will always be people watching it, parents showing it to their kids,
Mhm.
or staying up and watching the 24-hour marathon, the whole thing. My father-in-law has one of these lamps, like not
Oh my
the
gosh.
not the
Yeah,
full scale
not the
version, but like
full-
a small
Oh, gotcha.
replica.
Yep.
You know, it's so I see it all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and all of those jokes, like all the scenes that are hilarious and very relatable. You know, too many layers in the cold, or
Yes.
getting your tongue stuck to a pole. It has so many of those classic holiday things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so many of them come from this movie
Yeah.
that you can't forget about it. You know, it's
Yeah.
always going to be there, and that's
Mm-hmm.
cool.
It's one of those things that it feels like this movie came out in 83, but it just feels like it's always existed.
Right.
Yeah.
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 You know,
it's so established.
it's just existed since the beginning of time.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
It
yeah.
was the first movie.
yeah, the first, and then just the first Christmas movie, and
Yeah.
this is honestly, it is such a fun movie to watch as an adult, especially like if you grew up watching it and you remember what it was like to watch it as a kid,
Yeah.
and just there's so much more to it.
You
know.
Yeah. I laughed at a part that I hadn't really remembered was when he is having this daydream that he is protecting his family. It's like the old West kind of look.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll get them for you, Mom and Pa, you know, like, yeah, he's got like chewing
Yes.
tobacco in his
Yeah,
mouth.
yeah.
And
Yes,
there's these very cartoonish robbers outside the window that are just like, you know, the black and white stripes.
Yes.
And, you know, they're
'Cause they just
running
escaped
around.
from
Yeah,
jail.
exactly.
Yeah,
And just
yeah.
coming after them for some reason.
yeah, sure.
Yeah. Just like, I was like, oh my gosh, that is hilarious. And it would be so fun to like pretend to just be shooting and just these random robbers coming.
Say, Miss Ralphie, I just know those bad guys would be coming for us in the end.
Go for it, Dad. As long as I got old Blue.
There's a reason that A Christmas Story has endured as long as it has. Audiences are used to the sappy holiday films with seemingly perfect families that face some Christmas issues. But this movie isn't about a perfect family. The Parkers are dysfunctional in a way that speaks to the average American family. Even though they make mistakes, they're trying, and the parents find a way to come through for their kids. It drives home the timeless message that Christmas, just like everything, doesn't have to be perfect to be great.
Yeah.
Yay.
And podcasts, too.
Yeah.
Yes, especially podcasts.
So be forgiving to yourself and to us.
Yes.
So
That's right.
All right, guys. And I think that is our season premiere case closed.
Woo! We did it! Look at that! We didn't lose
try,
it! Woo!
first
Woo!
try.
Woo!
That was so clean.
That was exhilarating, guys. I'm ready for the season now. Let's do it.
Let's record the next episode.
Maybe
Right
not.
now.
Well, you know, no.
Maybe not.
I'm
Okay.
too tired for that.
All right.
But
Thank you so much to everyone who listened, especially our patrons.
Yeah.
Joel, John, Jacob, Jacqueline, JD, Anthony, Shelly, Bob, Linda, Jaron, and Brad.
Woo!
Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you
for
for
bringing us back.
Yes. That's true.
Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
We're here for you guys.
Yes.
Well, Merry Christmas, and we'll see you next week.
Yay.
Bye.
See ya.
Next to me in the blackness lay my oiled blue steel beauty. The greatest Christmas gift I had ever received or would ever receive. Gradually, I drifted off to sleep, pranging ducks on the wing and getting off spectacular hip shots.